And at the time I was a resident, we used to do things like tape together tongue depressors to like make a clip.
I've
Or
seen
like,
those. Yeah.
or send a tech out to actually hold pressure. And I just couldn't believe, I'm like, why am I MacGyvering tongue depressors together? Like there is a device for everything. How is there nothing that just helps people treat nosebleeds?
You are tuned in to the MoneyScript podcast. Today we will share strategies to help you grow your financial literacy and improve your money script. I'll be back with some important announcements. Until then, enjoy the show.
Welcome to the MoneyScript podcast. It's your host, Johannes Harrison. Happy New Year. Yes, Happy New Year to everyone. And welcome to season 5. Yes, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5. Season 5 of the MoneyScript podcast. A special thank you to all of our dozens upon dozens of listeners and followers and subscribers and Twitter follower. I'm not supposed to call it Twitter. Xers? Is that what they're called now? I don't know.
Yes.
I can't keep up the lingo. Kids, tell me what am I supposed to call you now? You're not all children, but the kids know the answer. That's what I'm talking to, because those of us of a certain age, we don't know the answer. I am so happy to be with each and every one of you today. I have a very special guest with me today. She is a recovering ER physician, emergency physician, an entrepreneur, a CEO, an inventor, a founder. The list goes on and on and on. So we are going to be speaking with Dr. Elizabeth Clayborne. Can we call you Liz?
Yeah, call me Liz. Dr. Liz.
Call you Liz.
Call me.
Dr. Liz. So this is the second, if you're paying attention, second Dr. Liz on the show. Yeah, you're going to have to go back to season 1 for the first Dr. Liz. So thank you for joining us. And she had a very interesting question for me as we were kicking off and getting ready to hop on today. Because this is the new year, we wanted to share just a little bit about what to do if you're recovering from some financial irresponsibility. You know, for a lot of us, last year was a good year. You may have got a raise. Maybe your company was doing well. You might have got a little bonus. Maybe your parents are feeling a little, feeling good, decided to give you a little gift. But some of us had a good year. And we decided that with that good year, we were going to have some good fun over the holidays. There's also some of us that didn't have a great year. Maybe you had to change jobs. Maybe you had a little bit of unemployment in there. Or maybe you had some emergencies or some things that came up that just didn't make the year that great. But you know what? You decided you were going to get a little retail therapy over the holidays. Yeah, I know what retail therapy is. I do it too. Okay. Maybe you just had an average year. But still, you might have made some decisions over the holidays that now those credit card bills are going to start showing up and you're like, I got to do something about this. Or you're looking at the bank account, your savings, your checking, you're like, oh, this isn't looking so good. And if you're listening to this somewhere after the first of the year, then maybe you've already kind of forgot about that New Year's resolution you put together. So here's what I want you to do. Okay, this is a great exercise no matter where you are in your financial life. I encourage you to keep a financial journal for the next 7, 14, 21, 30. I know I skipped 28. But basically, go keep a financial journal for at least a week if you can do it. Keep it right by your bedside. And every night before you go to bed, I want you to open up that journal and start with writing something positive about yourself and your finances. It may be money is unlimited and I can make as much of it as I want. It may be I'm abundant. It may be I'm a great saver. Just write something positive, even if it's not quite true yet, if it's something you want to aspire to. And then the next thing I want you to do is as well as you can, write down everything you bought that day. If you ordered something on Amazon, write down, spent $64 at Amazon, and then write what you bought with it. What did you purchase? Was it essentials? Was it toilet paper, paper towel? Or was it just a cart that was sitting there? Or was it probably a return? I mean, if it is January, you probably got a bunch of those things going on where you exchanged something, so you had the money, so you spent it again. Okay. But whatever you spent money on, do it from memory, whatever you remember spending money on. If you swiped your card to get some gas, whatever it is, And then grab your phone and go to your banking app or credit card app and see how well you did with what money you spent. You might look in there and say, oh, well, actually, I paid for electricity today too. Write that in the journal, but keep that up for a week. And the purpose of that exercise, when you get to the end, after you've gone through your transactions, at the end, write yourself a promissory note. I promise tomorrow I will do better and I will not go to Starbucks on the way to work. Tomorrow I will do better and I will, when I get paid, I will transfer $25 into my savings account. Tomorrow I'm going to take my credit card out of my wallet and delete it from all the apps that it's attached to. Okay. But try to keep that up for at least a week. If you can go longer, go longer. I've seen some folks that can go an entire year because they're into journaling. They just always do their financial journaling a part of it. And what it's going to do is going to help you become more aware of what you're doing with your money. Because that's one of the biggest problems with finances these days. If this is your first time listening to the Money Script podcast, I'm Johannes Harrison again. I'm a financial advisor. I help people make better decisions with their money. And this is the freemium part of my services where anybody can listen, whether you're on Spotify, you're on YouTube, you're on wherever you are. If you're hearing it now, that's where you're listening to it. Okay. But this is an opportunity for you to build your financial literacy. Okay. So again, start a money journal. Become more conscious and more aware of the financial decisions that you're making. And I promise you that over time, you will start to make some better decisions because now, like I said, in this complicated financial world, it's hard to keep up with everything. I almost said Zillow, Zelle and Cash App and Venmo and PayPal and Apple Pay and Google Pay and this credit card and that credit card and this checking account. And it's a lot to keep up with. So if you can find ways that you can consolidate that information so that your brain can look at everything at once, it will help you make better decisions in the future. So with that, thanks for tuning in for our, I'll call it a current event. Yeah, I mean, that's always current,
Absolutely.
Being current with your money. Indeed. So let's move on to Dr. Liz. Dr. Liz, we met at ASAP.
Yeah.
I think it was ASAP. Yeah.
Yes.
American College of Emergency Physicians.
That's correct.
That was in Philadelphia. Yes, Philadelphia last year. City of brotherly love. And that was my first time in Philadelphia. How about you? Was that your first time in Philly?
No, I've been up to Philly a couple of times. It's a popular place for conferences and I go to a lot of conferences, but dare I say it's not my favorite East Coast city. I like where I live in Maryland, right next to that DMV.
Oh, okay. So Maryland. Okay. Got it. Maryland. So Philly was, I enjoyed it. There's some good food in Philly.
Definitely.
I've also spent a good amount of time in the Maryland and DC area. My favorite on the East Coast, though, has to be New York, hands down. Has to be.
It's a lot of people's favorites. It
just has to be. It has to be. So, Dr. Liz, I believe we were at a social event, and you had a little box in your hand and this thing hanging off of your nose. Tell us a little bit about your wonderful invention.
I will, Johannes. I will comment as an ER doc. I really love the advice that you just gave everyone about the financial journal. It's very analogous to what we tell patients when we're trying to make them conscious of what they're doing with your body. Anytime you've been kind of on a diet or trying to monitor what's going on with your health, the first thing we will do is ask you to monitor what's going on. If your kid is sick, I'll be like, when did they get sick? What makes it worse? What makes it better? So I identify with that tip. And I'm so pleased I was here to receive that message. And it's very analogous to what I do as a physician. So kudos to you for that.
It also fits in with business owners. For business owners, if
Absolutely.
you make decisions with large amounts of money for your business, if you are in that role as a business owner, you are in that role. No one's really doing it for you. It's a great exercise to do there as well.
Yes.
Great exercise.
For your time, right? How you spend your time, because we're all
exactly.
so busy. I feel like we're in a culture of busyness. And I had an executive coach who made me kind of document how I spend my time.
Oh, I did that too.
I want to spend my time. And it's striking how much time you spend where you don't want to be. So
yes.
Really powerful tool. I can see how it can work, wonders, especially with your finances.
Amen.
So
Indeed.
As for NasaClip, which I have right here, I'm an ER physician and was really shocked when I started my residency that there are 500,000 people who visit the emergency department every year in the United States for nosebleeds. And that's just in hospital-based ERs, not even urgent care. And I could not believe people would show up to the ER for a nosebleed. I was like, just hold pressure on your nose. Like, why would you come here? But I found that nosebleeds are most common in kids age 2 to 10, older adults 55 to 80, especially if they're on blood thinners. And oftentimes people mismanage them. They pinch up here on their nasal bridge, they put their head back instead of forward, or they don't hold constant pressure, which is the most important thing because it's hard to hold pressure for 10 to 20 minutes. Nobody does that. So I created this little device here with these sponges that can be medicated. And basically the way it works is if you were having a nosebleed in any setting, a sporting field, an airline, at home, or if you're in the ER, you simply clear your nose of clot, insert the nasal sponges, rotate the clip into place, and pitch it shut. It just like that, it holds firm, constant pressure in the right anatomic location, but it's hands-free. My mouth's clear. My eyes are clear. I could put a mask over if I need to. I leave this in place for about 10 to 20 minutes and then simply release the clip and check for bleeding. It can actually be rinsed and reinserted 2 to 3 times to make sure that it stops, and it comes in both adult and pediatric sizes. So I consider NasaClip to be the Band-Aid of nosebleeds, and we just introduced it to the market last year. And so we're a brand new company. Yes, you can go to NasaClip.com to check it out. And I see this as a blockbuster product. And I'm so excited to be leading a company that is going to be a household name for nosebleed rescue.
So thank you for sharing with me that I've been dealing with my nosebleeds all wrong.
Yes, that's what people usually figure out. They're like, what? You don't put your head back? And I'm like, no, forward. You're just swallowing blood when you do that. And it doesn't help with the coagulation.
So I am I have been for a long time I don't even want to say it out loud because I don't want to claim it. But I sometimes when I get a cold, it likes to creep into my sinus. And sleeping with the heat on or the air on, it gets really dry. And then I wake up in the morning and it's and the thing is I don't feel it until it's already I see it before I feel it. So it's not until I'm like, what is that wet stuff on the ground? Oh, it's my nose. Great. But the immediate reaction is head goes back and I'm pinching like at the top of the bridge of my nose until I can like put something on it. And I just keep my head back until it stops.
And that's what a lot of people do. And that's why it takes so long because you're not applying the right.
I would get so frustrated. Yeah. I would take it. I was like, oh, it's still bleeding.
It's hard to hold constant pressure. Like you let go a little bit. And when you do that, you start the clotting cascade all over again. And sometimes the pinching on and off creates more damage to that mucosa inside. And this is nosebleed season in the middle of winter when the air is more dry and you're in a heated indoor space. So it's a perfect, storm for having common nosebleeds. So now you can just have a NasaClip nearby and it will apply that pressure for you in the right location.
I can already envision in our medicine cabinet right beside the Band-Aids. Our NasaClips just there, just in case.
Absolutely.
Yes, I have children, and so my son actually suffers from I think he inherited that as well. If he gets a cold and it makes its way into his sinus, he blows his nose so hard. He will blow his nose until it bleeds. And it's like, son, you're going to blow your nose off. Like
it's more common than you think. About a third of U.S. households has at least one member with common recurrent nosebleeds. So it's funny that you were kind of almost embarrassed to admit it. It's exceedingly common for people to have frequent nosebleeds, especially in the wintertime. And so I try to normalize that it is a really frequent problem that a lot of people have. And, if you do know the right way to treat it, it will be a lot easier to deal with.
Yeah. But I think also just because of just the sensationalism of television and drama and all the, social medias and stuff that we can also, especially children, will associate a nosebleed with something being wrong with the brain. Like my brain is leaking. Like, cause my nose doesn't bleed. No one hit me, but it's just bleeding all of a sudden. I don't feel pain, but I'm bleeding. Why is my body just leaking blood from its nose? So it can be a little traumatizing, but I think
it's scary because it can look like a lot of blood sometimes.
It does look like a lot of blood. No, the last time I had a nosebleed, I remember I texted my doctor like,
yes,
is my nose supposed to bleed this much?
Right. Which is
how much is this much? I'm like, It's a
people in the
lot.
ER.
Yep.
And I get it. I'm a mom too. So like, if your kid's bleeding and you can't get it to stop, you're like, what am I going to do? So I understand why people freak out. I just think it's helpful, right, to know that it's usually not serious. And the most common causes are actually just dry air and for kids,
Mm.
nose picking.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Gonna scratch something in there. So I want to talk a little bit about how you arrived from uh problem to idea to, conceptualizing or creating this product.
So, as I mentioned, I think this was a problem I first identified when I was a resident in emergency medicine. And I really could not understand why people would come to the ER. And I realized that as a physician, of course, I understood that nosebleeds are usually not that serious and the correct steps to treat them. But I, also recognized after treating several patients that there was a problem with the kind of layperson's understanding of how to deal with nosebleeds. And it led to them coming to the ER and kind of having an unnecessary use of time, money, and resources to treat a problem that was relatively simple. And at the time I was a resident, we used to do things like tape together tongue depressors to like make a clip
I've
or
seen
like,
those.
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
or send a tech out to actually hold pressure. And I just couldn't believe, I'm like, why am I MacGyvering tongue depressors together? Like there is a device for everything. How is there nothing that just helps people treat nosebleeds? So it was a problem that I thought was very common and that we should have a better solution to. And that's where the idea first, came into my head. And then there were several steps that I took to take that from idea to fruition and an actual product that you can now buy on our website.
Mm. Now, so did you seek help to, or I mean, let's go all the way to the beginning. Like, what came first, the business
Yeah,
plan or the product or how did you get to the piece of plastic? Like,
sure,
what were the
sure.
steps in between? Because I meet a lot of people that have great ideas and they
Mhm.
don't know how to get them out of their head and onto a
Right.
shelf. And you're there, your shelves, and you're just got there recently.
Yes.
So I feel like you're a little bit more attached to that beginning phase. And I'd love if you could share a little bit more about that process.
Definitely. And I'll also add that it is hard for us because as a physician, I knew nothing about business, right? I had no business training. I just knew that I had a possible solution to a problem, and that, I could conceptualize in my idea in my head, how I wanted it to look. The first thing I did do is reach out to, at the time I was training at GW, George Washington universities where I trained, their innovation center. And I entered in a DW
Mm,
business plan competition. So I did get really good insights in the beginning to, if you have a potential solution, right? You need to make sure that first of all, before you pour your blood, sweat, and tears into this idea, that you've validated that there's a real market, that somebody is going to pay money for your solution. Because a lot of us think we have a good solution, but maybe we don't. And in the process of going through that program, that's where I started doing my, patents, and I had my preliminary patent filed, which helped me kind of flesh out the design of how I wanted it to look. I also got some great insights from participating in the NSF, the National Science Foundation I-Corps, which is a government program which provides grant money for you to do the customer discovery. And we went out and interviewed a lot of people, moms, athletes, pharmacists, doctors, about how they treat nosebleeds, and then asked, would this be a solution they'd be interested in? And so we really validated that product market fit before we moved forward substantially with the business. From the GW business plan competition, that is where I got my first essential IP. And I tell all inventors or people who, especially coming from the medical field, are not as business savvy, the first thing you have to do is protect your IP. If you don't have IP, like a lot of times down the line, you don't have anything. Like all your value is based on the novelty of your idea. So you need to do that up front, and you need to be careful with, how you're sharing information until that's appropriately protected. Then went into kind of having to juggle a career while trying to build this business on the back burner and fundraising, which was particularly hard as a woman of color. Currently, we have only about 2% of venture capital going to women. Only 0.34% of that go to Black women. So you're
mm,
talking about, what is 0.34% round to? 0%. Like
Zero.
there's basically nothing going to people from my demographic, and it's very hard to do fundraising. I heard a statistic early on from one of the early supporters I had that on average, a white male founder needs to speak to about 7 contacts in order to get a yes or like an investment in their company, whereas Black women have to speak to 10 times that amount, 70, to speak to 70 people to get
Wow.
one yes. So it was very striking to me that this was going to be an uphill battle, but I'm up for a challenge. I have done lots of things in my career where I think I was successful in a place that I was a very underrepresented minority, and I didn't think this was any different. Plus, I think I had all of the tenacity, the know-how, the eloquence in speaking that allowed me to communicate my idea and my solution really clearly that would make me successful in this space. So I started out and got my first kind of big boost by doing an accelerator program in Maryland called with TEDCO, which is our kind of state-based venture fund. And they gave me my first 50,000 of capital, which helped me to get to my first prototype, but also set the stage for me to go on and raise more money. So to date, I've raised 2.5 million. I have an NSF SBIR phase 1 grant. I'm about to apply for phase 2. Thank you. And I'm in the middle of a $4 million raise. So, the stakes keep getting higher and higher. And so I just keep leveling up my goals. Like now I'm determined to make this a, unicorn exit, which is like $1 billion exit. I think the market's big enough to do that with the additional technologies we have.
Let's
And I'm
go.
trying to be super visible with my climb because I think it's so important for not only investors to understand the value of investing in women of color, because we outperform other counterparts all the time. I think because our culture drives us to, make $1 out of 15 cents and be innovative and hustle. Like that's just part of our kind of, fabric of how we're raised. And so we're actually very well suited to be in positions of leadership in startup companies because there's a lot of growing pains that come with that. I think that the investor community will see and be more willing to invest in other people from my demographic when they can see success stories like my own. So I do it for that reason. And also, of course, to inspire other women and people of color to go after their entrepreneurial dreams because I want them to see that it is possible.
That's the clip right there.
Thank you.
Ooh, that one got stuck in my throat. Man, that was beautiful. Beautifully said. I did not know the statistic of 70 to 1.
Yes.
For Black women.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. That's a lot of no's. That's, I
Exactly.
mean,
exactly.
I'm in a sales sort of role, so I had to deal with my fair share of no's, and it was, I'm not at all going to say that it was that hard as a young Black man to raise capital. It was difficult, but it wasn't 70 to 1. Maybe 15 to 1, where my counterparts, white male counterparts, were probably 4 or 5 to 1 first starting out. But
yeah, I mean the ratio is 10 to 1, but still, like it's more challenging than you may think because it's not just that you have to talk to that many more people. It's hard on your psyche.
That's a lot of rejection.
It'll
No,
make
that is a lot of
yourself
rejection.
and also try to understand like why does it seem like other people are being so successful in a faster period of time? Like, what am I doing wrong? So you have to have a lot more perseverance, but that is why I think we are such, when you do make it, that is why we're so successful because we had to go through that. I'm actually also working on a keynote speech where I speak to the power of women in leadership, in particular women of color. And the reason I have started doing this is it's just an issue that I think is essential to the success for us as human beings. Like we have to make sure that we're choosing our best leaders today, cultivating our best leadership today. And I think that if we look in areas where we haven't been looking for leadership, and particularly for people who are women and people of color, they have all the ingredients of strong leadership because they really thrive in circumstances of challenge and turmoil, and they're innovative and resilient. And those are the characteristics needed to successfully lead nations, companies, organizations, governments, especially with the challenging times that I'm sure we'll have in the future.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So did I hear you say you're coming to a TED stage soon? Is that what I'm...
I have done a TEDx talk already, actually on advanced
Okay.
care planning during COVID, which I encourage everyone to check out. You can look me up, Dr. Elizabeth Clayborne. It was TEDx Cape May in 2020
Okay.
about the importance of speaking about death and dying and advanced care planning, which I am very passionate about. I have a bioethics master's as an aside to my MD. But yes, I do think that in addition to my keynote, I would like to get my ideas boiled down to a TED talk. Because as Ted shares, like, these are powerful ideas, and I think they're worth spreading.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll put the link to the TED Talk in the show notes, as we always
Absolutely.
do for all of our TED stars that come and bless us on the Money Script podcast. So I want to segue into our favorite part of the show with a little bit of a twist. So if you've been with us for the past 4 seasons, our favorite question to ask our guests is to share with us their first memory of money. But now there's going to be a twist.
Okay.
So that is the first question. I'm not going to prep you for the second question. I'm going to let you ask the first question, and then I'll have a follow-up for you. So, Dr. Liz, what is your first memory of money?
So I didn't know you asked this question because I hadn't watched everything to the end. So this is really interesting. If I really had to think back, I remember like the actual physicality of seeing a dollar bill that I believe my grandfather probably gave me for doing something. Like for he used to he had no hair, but we used to love to comb his 2 strands of hair at the top of his head, and we thought we did such a good job. And we would say, we're a barber, and he would pay us like $1 for that. And it was the biggest deal. And I think that the reason that's my first memory is it's not just the money, but it was like the appreciation and value and love that was attached to that memory of being compensated for doing good work.
Beautiful. So now that you have your first memory, what do you want your financial legacy to be?
Well, you've already heard me say that I want to have a $1 billion exit with this company. So I have big dreams. And part of the reason I would like to build to what I would call like an unlimited wealth, in the sense that I personally, do not want for money, which I think frees up your time and your mind to spend it in a way that is actually allowing you to share your gifts with the world in, the most efficient manner. And so to me, reaching an exit with NasaClip where I have at least, 500 plus million will position me not only to build a financial legacy for my children where they would not necessarily need to have, any financial insecurity, but more importantly, would position me to have a capital to make substantial and sustainable change in communities that I think have been underserved for so long. So I could see in the future doing that and then opening up my own venture capital firm, right, where I can personally invest in other women and people of color to continue to build that generational wealth. Because I think, especially in Black communities, we have to understand that if just getting, some money for, your immediate family that may or may last 1 to 2 generations is not sustainable wealth. Like, we have to figure out a way to pass on wealth and knowledge that allows us to elevate, the status of our entire community over time. And that is the legacy I would want to leave to my children, to first of all understand that as women, they can do anything. As women of color, they can do anything well, and that they can most especially achieve financial wealth for themselves and their family and their community that will be sustainable over time.
Well said, Dr. Liz. Well said. Well, we are extremely grateful that you spent some of your billionaire time with us here at the Money Script podcast. And I look forward to the day where all of a sudden I just say, why is Dr. Liz's podcast spiking? Oh, she did it. Cool. All right. I look forward to that day. It'll be a glorious day. So for those of you that are interested, especially for my medical community, so Dr. Liz, I don't know if you're aware, but the reason I attend ACEP is to engage with the medical students and the residents that are there, because I know they're going through dark financial times, and I want to assure them that there is light at the end of this tunnel. However, when they get out to the light, they better be fully clothed. They do not want to be financially naked. So get some to be able to get a firm understanding of how their finances work when they go from making $4,000 a month to $40,000 a month overnight in most cases. So
Right.
building that foundation early. So if you are a student, medical student listening, early year resident listening, please, I encourage you, reach out to Dr. Liz, follow her, especially if you're in the ER and you say, hey, I think I have an idea that could work. You have someone that has taken something from idea to on the shelf that's here. And if you want to get some NasaClips in your hospital,
That's right.
because that's what this is all about. If you want to get some NasaClips in your hospital, all of the links are down below. But just in case you are, riding your bicycle or driving and you can't write something down, Liz, why don't you tell everyone where to find it?
Absolutely. So you can get all the information about NasaClip and background about me at NasaClip.com. That's NasaClip.com.
Wonderful. Wonderful. And of course, like I said, all the links will be in the show notes. Thank you so much for spending some time with us here on the Money Script podcast. I hope that you gave some thought to your first memory or memories of money. And I hope that you're starting to think about that new question. What do you want your financial legacy to be? Just know that your legacy begins right now. And with that, we'll see you next time on the Money Script podcast. Don't forget to like, share, tell a friend, to tell a friend, and we'll see you next time.
I'm back. Wasn't that a great show? I hope you learned something. I know I did. Now, before you go trying anything you heard today, remember, it is not intended to be specific tax or legal advice. If you need that, go see a CPA or an attorney. If you would like any complimentary consultation with a knowledgeable advisor, visit moneyscript.com and schedule a 15-minute consultation. Want Johans to come speak at your next event? Go to the Money Script website for that too. Of course, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click the bell for notifications. MoneyScript Wealth Management is a registered financial advisory service in multiple states. Want to learn more? Get the full disclosure on our website, moneyscript.com.